Yeah,
Um,
so out of all of us, who hasn't seen the original '85 Spielberg movie? Because
I
I
have
have
not.
not.
I would try to watch some of it today before this review, so I got through some of it. As Nick mentioned, The Color Purple, which was first directed by Steven Spielberg. Now they're doing it's not a remake, it's a reimagining because it's an
Mhm.
adaptation of the musical that was an adaptation of the movie that Steven Spielberg did, which was an adaptation of the
Book.
stage play that was first written there. So yeah, if you can follow that timeline of The Color Purple, that's kind of where we at here. So it's not a remake; it's an adaptation. It's another adaptation of it, and this time around, it's a musical. Now, the first Color Purple, which came out all the way back in 1985, as Nick mentioned, like I said before, directed by Steven Spielberg. You also had Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey. The movie got a lot of awards attention as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
Classic film.
yeah, it went, I think 0 for 11 with, nominations at the Academy Awards.
Mm, yes. Yeah. And the original novel was about Alice Walker. Originally, it was a novel at first there. So originally there was a novel. So yeah, Oscar nominee film. So how are you gonna, try to, I don't necessarily compete with that, top it in a sense with this? That's gonna be very incredibly difficult to do. I've never seen the original Color Purple. I know it's a classic film. I was trying to watch some of it today just to have a little bit of comparison with this and that. So I made it like halfway through it. So I know it's one of those movies probably I should have seen already, like we talked about with Wonka. It's like I probably should have seen Willy Wonka already, or you know what I mean, movies like that. But it's on the list there. But people can watch it. It's on the Max app if you have that. It is on there and available for people to watch. So with The Color Purple, if people don't know the story already, so it follows really here two sisters here, Celie and Avery. No, I'm sorry, Celie, and you have Nettie.
Nettie,
Uh,
who when they're young, it's, Felicia Pearl Mopsy, who plays young Celie, and, Halle Bailey, who plays, young Nettie.
Yeah, who Halle Bailey we just saw, she was in Little Mermaid. We just saw her in that movie. And yeah, you have it starts off you see the younger versions of these characters of Celia and Nettie. Then there's a huge time gap that happens, and this takes place, way in the, kind of the past. I think I want to say the 40s. It is, I believe, or yeah,
I
I think it.
Yeah, it starts in, I think, like 1910, and then it just, takes place over the course of, like, 40 some odd years.
Yeah, because you see the characters age up. So it follows this, and you see the kind of the hardship, mainly with Celie's character and all the kind of hardship she kind of goes through from her initial relationship uh, with her kind of adoptive father. Then you see it where she kind of gets just traded off like goods to this other man who's played by Coleman Domingo, who plays Mister in here, who originally was played by the Danny Glover in the original film. And you kind of it's a story about her rise amongst all this, kind of when she's in this downtrodden situation, how she kind of comes above that. And you see a lot of the other women in this who also are in downtrodden type of situations, but still shine amongst it. And it kind of shows Celie, how she can shine,
Mhm.
even though she is in this incredibly tough situation and she can fight back against it. And, one of those people that's kind of showing her that light is Danielle Brooks, who plays Sophia in this, who plays sorry, Sophie in this, who does an amazing job. And
Mhm.
this is I believe this is all her singing, just like with Taraji P. Henson. This is all her singing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, and with the case of, Fantasia Barrino and, Danielle Brooks, they both played these respective roles in the Broadway run of The Color Purple. So
Oh, okay.
it's a case of, not so much like a Dear Evan Hansen, where you had, one of the original stage actors come back and, reprise this role. It's a case where it actually enhances it because they're allowed to add new layers or add new elements to their performance that they couldn't do on Broadway just because it's a different medium.
Mm, yeah, and you kind of see that a little bit when I was watching the original film. You kind of see the contrast there of how kind of some things they are done, and then obviously now in 2023 you can do a lot more things visually than you could in 1985. There's some great visual moments in the 2023 version, but here you see the 1985 version here, and kind of watching some of it, you definitely feel the difference just in terms of the pacing of it. where it's kind of more of a slower type movie, a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more focused on a lot of the drama aspects. But they do kind of expand some of the relationships in the musical version, which we'll get into, as opposed to the 1985 version here. Um, but yeah, I wasn't really expecting all that much from this. I was like, okay, it's a musical. How's that going to
Mhm.
happen? What's really going to go on here? How's it going to be that much different from the original? Is it worth kind of doing? But I think it was a pleasant surprise, just in terms of I really liked a lot of the musical sequences in this.
Mhm.
Really like the choreography here. I thought that was really well done. But I'm gonna pass it around a little bit to get some of you guys' thoughts. Nick, what were your thoughts on Color Purple?
So with me, I mentioned before I hadn't seen the original '85 film, so I kind of had lower expectations for this adaptation of Color Purple, and then hearing about it, seeing how they're marketing it, it's produced by Oprah Winfrey and Steven Spielberg. It's like, okay, they attach their name to pretty much anybody with a paycheck, but I ended up really enjoying most of the musical segments in this. Like we said, we have people from the Broadway productions of this: Fantasia Barrino, Danielle Brooks, and the supporting cast of actors that all really pull their weight when it comes to the musical sequences in this. Like you have Coleman Domingo and Corey Hawkins. Coleman playing Mister, who becomes Ceely's like abusive husband, and Corey Hawkins, who we saw in Straight Outta Compton, and most recently in Last Voyage of the Demeter. He really does a fantastic job in this. And this movie, I think it works more. I think it works best when it is in the musical sequences because you have the director Blitz Batsawule, who is mostly a music video director, but he's also directed the 2020 visual album Black is King for Beyonce, and getting to
Oh,
show off a lot of those visual flares with the musical sequence. Like you have in the trailer this segment where they like shrink down and they start dancing on a record.
yeah, which is a really great sequence there that they have. So yeah, you have like those visual moments that are really kind of interesting. And this is I'm going to show the director right here. So this is the director, not Steven Spielberg,
Not
not
the
the
old white
white,
guy.
yeah, not the old white Jewish guy right here, but the guy that's next to there. Yeah, and you got Steven Spielberg going, "Hey, look, I know black people. Hey, look at me, I still know black." But yeah, you have him there. So yeah, that was really great and great performances here. Coleman Domingo, I mean, he's like a Tyler Perry villain in this. I mean, pretty much in every aspect. I mean, he's just such a piece of shit in every term. And I mean, he's I mean, he's probably one of the best villains of the year. I mean, honestly, like at least top 5, top 3. Just in terms of all the things that he kind of does here. And when you see the story, if you know how it kind of goes, you know it's going to happen. And I was just like, I mean, I don't know if I can, me being a first time watcher of this, story. I was like, I don't know about this. I was like, I kind of, I kind of want to see some more justice here. But yeah, he does a fantastic job. Danielle Brooks, really amazing. I didn't know she could really sing like that.
Mhm.
Really fantastic.
Yeah, I knew that she had a history on Broadway before we saw her in stuff like Orange Is the New Black or even most recently Peacemaker. But yeah, she is a Tony nominated performer as well as a Grammy Award.
Yeah, and she's absolutely fantastic in this. I think what she does with this movie, because with her character, she's really brazen, especially for I mean, at this period of time, for a woman, black woman especially, to be this brazen, to be this bold, is unheard of. You know what I mean? It's like so many people like they want to do something about it. They go like, I mean, you shouldn't be talking to me like this, but I'm just honestly just dumbfounded that this kind of happens, and I mean, she just really delivers such a strong performance here and is absolutely fantastic. Taraji P. Henson comes in as well, and she does a terrific job as well. Again, as Avery, and you see that again. That's all her singing. That's all her performing there, and she does a fantastic job. You see kind of a little bit of a relationship that I believe is not that much, fleshed out in the original. Here,
Yeah,
they kind of add some more depth to it.
yeah, I think it was more implied in the original '85 movie.
Yeah, so you see kind of a little bit more of that coming in there. So yeah, that's really special to see like their connection, Celie and Avery, who's played by Fantasia and then Taraji Henson and Fantasia. You know, if you didn't know, like she was on American Idol, this was way back when. Is American Idol even still on? I think it's still
I,
on.
I think it still is, but all of the original three hosts moved on to better things.
Yeah, I think it's still on there. But yeah, she, really, her pipes really fantastic there. And then Dusk, you didn't see this movie, right?
What, The Color Purple?
Yeah. Oh, you saw it. Yeah.
I saw it.
Let me get your. Oh yeah, let me get your thoughts on The Color Purple.
Oh, am I allowed to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. So, like you guys have been saying before, this is a musical version of a Broadway play, which was based on a movie, which was based on a book. And it's like a Xerox. Every time you copy and print something, a little more information kind of gets taken away and taken away. And so when it gets taken away, well, how are we going to fill it in? How are you going to fill in the parts that don't get quite copied in? For the movie, artistically, cinematography wise, is fantastic. Steven Spielberg was at the top of his game. All the performances from Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, they all did a great job. Donald Glover, especially, just playing just an absolute piece of shit.
Well, that was Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, shit. Whatever. I always get them confused. Donald and Danny. I know. Too old for this shit. It did a great job, and now we're moved on to a further iteration of it. Now, I think everything in this musical, they did a very good job of making this a musical. From production to choreography to everyone singing and acting. I think they all played the parts well for this. And I have absolutely no complaints on that measure. I think honestly the record scene, those small things, those are really inspired moments. And those really elevate moments that would fit on a Broadway, but fit very well on a movie screen. And I absolutely commend them for using this as a proper medium for it. Fantasia is good in the role. Although I do, for the character, I would say Whoopi Goldberg actually did a different job, but I preferred Whoopi's more shyness in comparison to Fantasia. But for going by, this is a different medium version of it. This is a interpretation of it, and so there's going to be a lot of liberties. I guess really, this movie really stands really well. It stands well, and so much of the color too. So much of all like the vibrancy and a lot of that stage gets brought out here as well. It really just comes down to, do you like the source material?
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really talked about that, but The Color Purple, since its inception in 1982 in the book, and eventually the movie, which got a lot more eyes on it, it has been loved as it is hated at the same time. The book has been torn to shreds. It's been both literally, critically, it has been defounded as feminist propaganda, attacks on the Black families, attacks on all sorts of aspects of culture. Many different people have looked at it in different ways, and in a lot of ways, even though this is a more defanged version of it, a lot of the characters are still here. A lot of the same aspects are still here. A lot of that, if Danny Glover was a piece of crap, but still there was some aspects of him in the character. This is a Tyler Perry villain. We ain't got time for that. We ain't got time for subtlety. So everything gets heightened to 11. Did you have enough man-hating for this year? No. Go see this musical. You'll hate men more than you ever thought you could hate men before. That's what it really felt like. But honestly, with all the singing and dancing, they can't take away the aspect of the core of this movie, and this is a fantasy for women, especially one particular woman's story that encompasses several other women and fantasies of that. And it is unfortunately also comes with the baggage of being part of the story and the aspect of those previous iterations, and it does have those themes. And so it really just comes down to is this movie is gorgeous, but are you interested in the subject? And if you didn't like the original Color Purple, this musical is not going to win you over. No matter how much they've sort of defanged it, it's still in its blood. It's still in its bones. This is what it is. And that's really what it comes down to. On a technical level, I respect it a lot, and I had a good time. There's a couple of musical scenes in this that you just you're tapping your feet to. I thought was really fun, but that it really just comes to that. So I want to pass it back to you guys. Want to see what you think?
Mm. Yeah. If you are a fan of the material, if you were a fan of the book, if you were a huge fan of the movie, now you're kind of coming into this. It's like, well, what does this musical have to offer me?
Mhm.
Being somebody who's seen the book or the movie. I mean, it'd be interesting to see people who are that and then coming into
Right.
this. Now, this did do pretty well. It had the second largest opening on Christmas Day.
Kicked
So
Aquaman's ass.
did, you know what I mean? He got his ass whooped. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it had the second largest. So a lot of people seem to be pretty interested in it. Second largest
Mhm.
opening on Christmas Day, and so it'd be interesting to see people kind of coming into this with, it's like, what does it more have to offer?
Mhm.
And I would say that I think the performances here, even though I don't think they're an exact maybe in a carbon copy as Dust mentioned, of the performances
I
from.
wouldn't say carbon copy is more on the aspect of as you kind of water down elements, you then have to fill them in on that aspect.
Mhm.
You get that with a lot of going from book to movie to then to play to then this. You kind of have to, in that essence, replace it with something else because you are losing in copying. You are losing something in translation into different mediums. They're not carbon copy. I want to make that very clear. They are not carbon copy performances. They
Mm,
are the same role, but
Mhm.
different interpretations, and they have to fit that role differently. And while I might prefer Whoopi Goldberg and using of that character over Fantasia, that is not the kind of role that they were trying to go for with this movie.
yeah.
Very
And
different. Same character, different role in it.
yeah. And I think it being a musical, like you mentioned, it being so vibrant, I think that helps because this is some depressing ass shit. I
Oh
mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it
it's
was.
sad.
Yeah, I had no context for what The Color Purple was about, except that it was a movie by Steven Spielberg back in the '80s. I had no idea what I was getting into watching
Mhm.
this.
Like this shit is sad, man. This woman leads a hard life.
This shit is this shit is fucking depressing, man.
This was
So it
it was a landmark release at the time. It was pretty big, but I mean it had everything. I mean, it had domestic violence, incest, child abuse, sexual child abuse, poverty, racism,
Race.
and sexism,
it hit
Yeah,
and
everything.
hating
it's
black men.
a cornucopia of misery.
It is.
Yeah.
Cannot tell you how much this movie hates black men. Can't tell you.
This shit went bowling and then it hit a fucking strike.
It did. My God, did it. It got
Um,
everything in there.
So yeah, but I mean, so it helps the musical sequence
Mhm.
that brings some life to the like just energy in terms of just like some joy when you can do this kind of escapism in the movie. When she's kind of doing these things, where she's performing and singing, when she opens up her shop, it's like that's great, or you know what I mean when
Mhm.
she's dancing on the record and that whole kind of what do you call that style of 1920s roaring kind of look,
Or
which
kind
she
of
The Roaring
kind of
20s.
like a technicolor look to it.
Hmm.
yeah, when she's doing that with Taraji P Henson, like that looks so great. So yeah, yeah. So at least that adds something to it. Like it gives some kind of little levity to things. I'm gonna give it to you guys for your ratings, but I'm gonna
Mhm.
give it a tune in. I think this is a good tune in for me. Had a good time watching it. I thought like I said, great performances here. Great musical sequences that really add a lot to this. And the musical sequences I think were fun. They were catchy. They
Mhm.
didn't go on for too long. Um, I think I could definitely see Taraji P Henson, Daniel Brooks both get nominated. Danielle Brooks both get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I think they do that terrific of a job. And then Fantasia, I think she's good. I think she's strong in it.
Mhm.
Um, but I think maybe it is a case of because her character is so very meek and is someone who
Mhm.
is kind of such a wallflower. And then it makes you root for it more when she finally bursts out and then has her moment like that scene at the dinner table. You know what I mean? When she has that moment, it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? You're really rooting for her there when she has that moment.
Oh, you mean when she's like going into the car and she tries to do like the iron claw to like curse Mister?
Yeah, like so when she finally kind of bursts out and then has her moment of it's like that's it helps to have that all that preceding it there, and so that definitely helps. But I think in maybe some cases she kind of maybe does get just kind of with Daniel Brooks and Twice Revenge
Mhm.
get so kind of overtaken and overshadowed
Mhm.
by
Yeah,
their
and
performance.
yeah, I'm kind of right there with you as far as my final rating. I think all of the performances here are very good, even Fantasia Barrino. The only problem with it is that because her character is so kind of meek and downtrodden for almost the entire runtime, that she gets overshadowed by Daniel Brooks and by Taraji P. Henson. And it's
Mm,
not that it's a bad performance; it's just those stand out more.
Mhm.
yeah, and she is the least experienced actress
Mhm.
here at
Yeah, I
every
think
deal with.
yeah, I think this is her feature film debut. She played the role on Broadway, but there are things you can do acting on stage that you can't do on film.
Mm, okay, yeah. So yeah, what rating would you give it, Nick?
I give this a very strong tune in. I really loved visually. This is probably one of my favorite movies of the year as far as like how Blitz Botzwooly directs all the musical sequences. It feels engaging. It's that key thing where you're directing either a musical segment or a fight scene. It's pull the camera a little bit back and let these actors and dancers show off what they can do.
Mm, okay, yeah. And you said this is her feature film debut, Fantasia?
I
Fantasia.
believe so. I'm looking on her Wikipedia and I'm not seeing anything in her film. Oh, this is her feature film debut. She's been
Wow.
on on television, but it was mostly stuff playing herself, and she's been on Broadway, The Color Purple, and in this play After Midnight back in 2014.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, that surprises me that this is her first feature film debut. I mean, given how, powerful her voice is, given how long she's been the winner of American Idol, that's interesting. Thank you for that information. Dusk,
Mm.
final thoughts, rating.
Uh, I think all the performances were very strong. I felt a lot of the musical aspects of it was also very well done. Uh, as a a lot of technical performance and feature wise, I think this is a strong musical for what it's attempting to do. But I do think that unfortunately, the elements of this musical outshine, kind of watered down and outshine the aspects of the original story, but still keep it inherently involved. And if this isn't your cup of tea, you're n- it's not going to be defanged enough that you're not gonna. If you were bothered by the original Color Purple, which I can understand if you were, and the book, which is doubles down on everything, then even with all the adjustments, changing things, color and vibrancy and larger than life aspects of this musical, it's still going to be at the heart of it. And if you're just not down for that, then this movie is not going to change too much of your mind. But I do think it's going to be dressed up a bit better and a bit more palatable for people who otherwise maybe didn't prefer the other forms of the story. I think with all that considered, I think I'm debating in it. I could say this is probably a very strong stream it. I could very definitely see this as a high stream it, bordering on a low tune in. I think all the performances are pretty strong, give or take a couple of performances here and there. So I think with all that said, I think you wouldn't be too wrong with going a very high stream it.
Mm, okay, I stream. You can see that. So 2 tune ins and one stream it for The Color Purple.